I never planned to walk out on my marriage of 12 years. But when she pushed me too far, giving me that ultimatum in front of all our friends, something inside me snapped. They say the quiet ones are the most dangerous when they finally break. That night, I discovered exactly what I was capable of, and it terrified everyone, especially her. This is how I reclaimed my manhood and my life. My name is Travis Sutton. I'm 39 years old, and I've been married to Veronica for 12 years. We met at a corporate retreat in Colorado, one of those team-building nightmares where they make you fall backward into your coworkers' arms. She caught me. I remember thinking how steady her hands felt. How sure. That's Veronica all over. Beautiful, confident, unstoppable once she sets her mind to something. Back then, we were the couple everyone wanted to be. The office power duo. We'd stay up late planning our future between kisses, mapping out the trajectory of our careers, our dream house with a wraparound porch, the 2 kids we'd have, a boy and a girl, naturally. We had it all figured out. Funny how life has its own plans. The miscarriage changed things. Changed us. It was early, just 11 weeks, but it ripped through our perfect map like a tornado. I want to talk about it. Veronica wanted to pretend it never happened. She threw herself into work, climbing the corporate ladder with a single-minded focus that left little room for grief. Or for me. I remember the morning I first felt the distance between us. It wasn't dramatic. No slammed doors or shouting matches. Just Veronica at the kitchen island, scrolling through her phone while I talked about maybe taking a weekend trip to the lake house her parents owned. I stopped mid-sentence when I realized she wasn't listening. She looked up, blinked, and asked me to repeat myself. But her eyes were already drifting back to her screen. Never mind, I said. It wasn't important. She nodded absently and went back to whatever email had captured her attention. I stood there holding 2 coffee mugs, feeling like I was suddenly invisible in my own kitchen. My buddy Marcus noticed it before I did. We were watching the Patriots game at his place when he asked how things were at home. I gave him the standard fine that men give each other when they don't want to talk about it. You sure? He pressed, eyes still on the screen. Veronica seems different lately. Distant. I remember feeling defensive, like he'd insulted her somehow. She's just busy. Big merger at work. Marcus nodded, took a pull from his beer. There's always a big merger, Travis. I changed the subject, but his words stuck with me. Because he was right. There was always something, a client emergency, a business trip, a late meeting. And I was always understanding, always supportive, always waiting at home with dinner, keeping warm in the oven. Always the reliable Travis, who never complained, never pushed back. Until the night I did. The office Christmas party was where I first saw it. That look in Veronica's eyes when she talked to Richard Baxter, the new VP of marketing. Not attraction exactly, more like fascination. He was everything I wasn't. Loud, confident, with stories about skydiving in New Zealand and sailing around Greek islands. I stood in the corner nursing a whiskey sour, watching my wife laugh at his jokes like they were the funniest things she'd ever heard. She's just networking, I told myself. That's what Veronica did. She built connections, climbed ladders. I admired that about her. But when her hand lingered on his arm a second too long, something cold settled in my gut. Later that night, as I drove us home through the snow, I asked casually about Richard. He's brilliant, she said, eyes on her phone. Did you know he doubled their conversion rate in just 3 months? Fascinating, I muttered. She glanced up. What's that supposed to mean? Nothing. I kept my eyes on the road. Just noticed you 2 hit it off. Veronica sighed that sigh, the one that said I was being ridiculous. It's called being professional, Travis. Some of us actually care about moving up in the world. The barb landed exactly where she aimed it. I'd turned down a promotion last year that would have meant relocating to Boston. Veronica had been furious. We agreed to prioritize our careers, she'd said. But I liked our life in Hartford. I liked my team, our house, the friends we'd made. And deep down, I still hoped we might try for another baby. That hope felt foolish now. At home, I watched Veronica kick off her heels and head straight upstairs without a backward glance. No nightcap by the fire like we used to do. No rehashing the party, laughing about our coworkers' drunken antics. Just the sound of the shower running, then the bedroom door closing. I slept on the couch that night, telling myself it was because I didn't want to wake her. The truth was I couldn't bear to lie beside her, feeling the miles between us, even with our shoulders touching. My brother Kevin called the next morning as I was making coffee. "How's it going, little brother?" His voice boomed through the speaker, full of that Texas confidence he'd picked up since moving to Austin. "Fine," I said automatically. "Busy with work." "Bullshit," Kevin said. "Mom told me Veronica didn't even call on her birthday." I closed my eyes. She's been swamped with this new product launch. Too swamped to make a 5-minute call to her mother-in-law, the woman who helped pay for your wedding. I had no answer for that. "Look," Kevin's voice softened. "I'm headed your way for that conference next month. Let's grab a beer. Just us." "Sure," I said, though we both knew Veronica would probably schedule something last minute that I couldn't miss. After we hung up, I stood by the kitchen window, watching a cardinal hop across our snow-covered deck. Veronica and I had spent a whole Saturday building that deck our first summer in the house. I'd hit my thumb with the hammer, and she'd kissed it better, then mocked me mercilessly for the rest of the afternoon. We'd grilled steaks to celebrate when it was done, drinking cheap beer and planning all the summer parties we'd host. We hadn't had a party in 2 years. I pulled out my phone and stared at the calendar. Valentine's Day was coming up. Maybe I could plan something special, something to remind us both of who we used to be. I started searching for romantic getaways, hoping it wasn't already too late. Valentine's Day came and went without fanfare. The reservation I'd made at Giovanni's, the Italian place where we had our first anniversary dinner, went unused when Veronica texted that she had to work late. Again, I ate both chocolate-covered strawberries from the gift box, then tossed the roses in the trash. Looking back, that was the moment I should have confronted her. Instead, I swallowed my disappointment like I always did and went to bed early. The next morning, I ran into Marcus at the gym. He took one look at me, bench pressing more weight than usual, and raised an eyebrow. "Rough night," something like that. I grunted, pushing through another rep. After our workout, over protein shakes, I finally opened up. Told him about the growing distance, about Richard the Perfect VP, about the Valentine's reservation going to waste. "Time to man up," Kevin said bluntly. "You think she respects a doormat? Show her what she's about to lose." His words stung, but they also resonated. Had I become a doormat? When had I stopped standing up for myself, for us? That weekend, I did something I hadn't done in months. I booked a cabin up in the Green Mountains. No asking permission, no checking schedules. I just packed the car and was drinking coffee at the kitchen island when Veronica came down, dressed for her Saturday spin class. "What's this?" she asked, eyeing my duffel bag. "Going to the mountains for the weekend. Leaving in 20 minutes if you want to join." Her mouth opened, then closed. "I can't just drop everything. I have plans with Sharon for brunch, and that report." "Fine." I cut her off. "See you Sunday night." The surprise on her face was almost worth a knot in my stomach. I finished my coffee, grabbed my bag, and walked out without looking back. The mountains were exactly what I needed. I hiked until my legs burned, stood on a ridge overlooking 3 states, and breathed air that didn't smell like Veronica's absence. That night, in the silent cabin, I built a fire and faced some hard truths. My marriage was falling apart, and I'd been too afraid to do anything about it. My phone buzzed. "Veronica." I let it go to voicemail, then listened to her message. "Where exactly are you? Sharon's husband just told me the Green Mountain Resort is closed for renovations. Are you with someone? Call me back immediately." I didn't. For the first time in years, I put myself first, and it felt like waking up. The house was dark when I got home Sunday evening. I flipped on the kitchen light and found Veronica sitting at the island, still in her work clothes, her face a carefully controlled mask. "Where the hell have you been?" Her voice was ice. "Exactly where I said I'd be. Beaver Creek Cabin, east side of the mountain." I called the resort. They said. "I didn't stay at the resort," I interrupted. "I wanted privacy." She studied me like I was a stranger. Maybe I was. The Travis who left Friday wasn't the same man who came back. "So this is what? Your rebellion? Disappearing without telling me where you're staying?" I set my keys down calmly. "When was the last time you told me where you really were, Veronica? All those late nights and weekend emergencies. You think I don't know?" Her eyes widened briefly before narrowing. "What exactly are you accusing me of?" "I'm not accusing. I'm asking why we're still pretending everything's fine when we've been living separate lives for months." She stood up, arms crossed. "You're being ridiculous. I've been working. Some of us have ambition." "No, some of us have priorities. And I'm not yours anymore." The front door opened. Voices in the hallway. I'd forgotten. Game night with the Hendersons and Wilsons. Veronica had insisted we host, though we hadn't played in months. We'll finish this later, she hissed. No, I said firmly. We finish it now. Sharon Henderson's voice called from the entry. Hello. Anybody home? Veronica's face flushed with anger. Don't you dare make a scene. But something in me had snapped. All those months of silence, of accepting less than I deserved. I was done. The couples filed in, bearing wine and snacks, their smiles faltering as they sensed the tension. Veronica put on her social face, the one that had won her Salesperson of the Year 3 times running. Travis just got back from a little solo trip. Who wants wine? But I was tired of the performance. Actually, I said, I think you should all go home. Veronica and I need to talk. She froze, wine bottle in hand. Travis, stop it. You're embarrassing yourself. No, I'm finally being honest. I turned to our friends. I'm sorry, but we're not up for company tonight. That's when she lost it. She slammed the bottle down, red wine splashing onto the white countertop. You don't get to decide this, she snapped. You don't get to waltz back in here after disappearing all weekend and start giving orders. She pushed too far, gave me a choice right in front of everyone. Either get with the program or get out. Stay or go. I didn't speak. I just grabbed my keys and walked away, the silence behind me absolute. I drove through the night with no destination in mind, just the need to put distance between myself and that house. The radio played some country song about broken hearts and empty promises. I switched it off, preferring the silence. Eventually, I found myself at the Blackbird, a dive bar where Marcus and I sometimes watch games. The place was nearly empty on a Sunday night, just a few regulars nursing beers in dark corners. Whiskey. Neat, I told the bartender, a heavily tattooed woman who didn't waste time with small talk. 2 drinks in, my phone started buzzing. Veronica, then Sharon, then Mark Wilson. I turned it off and slipped into my jacket pocket. Woman trouble. The bartender placed another whiskey in front of me. How'd you guess? Got that look. She wiped down the bar. Like you're trying to decide whether to fight or surrender. I laugh without humor, thinking I'm done fighting for someone who stopped fighting for us a long time ago. She nodded like this made perfect sense and moved away to serve another customer. I appreciated her lack of platitudes. No, it'll get better. Or have you tried counseling? Just understanding that sometimes things break and no amount of superglue can put them back together exactly as they were. My phone stayed off, but my wedding ring felt heavier by the minute. I twisted it around my finger, remembering the day Veronica had placed it there. How certain we'd both been. How naive. I crashed at Marcus's place that night. He didn't ask questions, just tossed me a spare blanket and said, "Guest room's yours as long as you need it." The next morning, I called in sick to work for the first time in 3 years. Then I drove to Kevin's lake house about an hour outside the city. He'd given me keys years ago, told me to use it whenever I needed an escape. I'd never taken him up on it until now. The cabin smelled like pine and quiet. I opened all the windows, letting the late winter air clear out the mustiness. Then I sat on the deck, overlooking the frozen lake, and made a list. Not pros and cons about my marriage. I was past that. But practical steps for what came next. I need my own place. We need to talk to a lawyer, probably. We need to figure out how to untangle 12 years of shared life. The thought should have terrified me. Instead, I felt lighter than I had in months. Whatever happened next would be hard, but at least it would be honest. My phone buzzed when I finally turned it back on. A text from Veronica. We need to talk. Where are you? No apology. No acknowledgement of what had happened. Just a demand. I typed a response, considered it, then deleted it. Some conversations shouldn't happen over text. Instead, I called the one person I knew would give me straight advice. Mom? Yeah, it's me. Got time to talk. My mother listened without interrupting as I laid out everything. The growing distance, the missed Valentine's dinner, the weekend in the mountains, the final showdown in front of our friends. I always thought Veronica was too polished, she finally said. Like she was playing a part. Mom, let me finish. You deserve someone who loves the real you, Travis. Not the version of you that fits into their perfect life plan. I stared out at the lake, where a single-eyed fisherman sat on a folding chair by his hole. Patient. Steady. Qualities I'd always prided myself on. Until they became excuses for inaction. I think it's over, Mom. Has been for a while. Then be kind but clear. Don't drag it out. Her voice softened. Your father and I raised you to be a good man. That doesn't mean being a martyr. After we hung up, I texted Veronica, I'll be home tomorrow evening to talk. Just us. Her reply came immediately. I've been worried sick. Where are you? I didn't answer. For once, I didn't feel the need to explain myself. The next day, I drove back to Hartford with the windows down, despite the cold. Johnny Cash on the radio, singing about hurt and redemption. I felt scrubbed clean by the hard decisions ahead. The house was dark except for the kitchen light. Veronica sat at the island, makeup perfect despite the late hour, fingers wrapped around a mug of tea she wasn't drinking. Where have you been? No hello. No relief at seeing me. Kevin's lake house. Needed time to think. She pursed her lips. You embarrass me in front of our friends. Not I missed you. Or I'm sorry. Just concerned about appearances, as always. I set my keys on the counter. I'm moving out, Veronica. Her eyes widened. This wasn't the script she'd prepared for. Don't be dramatic. We had a fight. Couples fight. We haven't been a real couple in a long time. I kept my voice steady. We're just two people sharing an address. Is this about Richard? Because nothing happened. It's not about him. It's about us. About how you light up around him, around work, around anything but me. She stood up, suddenly defensive. So, I'm enthusiastic about my career. That's a crime now. No, it's not. I shook my head. But you stopped being enthusiastic about our life together a long time ago. So did I. She moved around the island, closing the distance between us. For a moment, I thought she might reach for me, like she used to when things got tough. Instead, she crossed her arms. What do you want from me, Travis? To quit my job? To be some 1950s housewife? I want you to be honest about what you really want, because I don't think it's me anymore. Her silence told me everything I needed to know. 2 weeks after moving out, I found a one-bedroom apartment downtown with floor-to-ceiling windows and a view of the river. It was nothing like the suburban house Veronica and I had shared. No manicured lawn, no granite countertops, no his and hers closets. It was mine, just mine, and that felt right. Kevin helped me move the few things I'd taken. Clothes, my grandfather's armchair, the record collection Veronica had always hated. Too much clutter, she'd say, trying to talk me into streaming music instead. But I loved the ritual of it, selecting an album, setting the needle down, hearing that first crackle before the music began. You seem good, Kevin said, cracking open beers after we'd arranged the furniture. Better than I expected. I'm getting there. I took a long sip. Filing the divorce papers tomorrow. He raised an eyebrow. That was fast. No chance of working things out. We had one last conversation that made things clear. I hadn't told him about my final night in the house. How Veronica had finally dropped the facade once she realized I was serious. You can't just throw away 12 years, she'd shouted. What will people think? Not, I love you. Or, I'll change. Just concern about appearances. It had crystallized everything for me. Sometimes the kindest thing is a clean break, I told Kevin now. He nodded, understanding in his eyes. Proud of you, little brother. Takes guts to start over. Later that night, after Kevin left, I unpacked a box labeled Office and found a framed photo of Veronica and me from our honeymoon in Maui. Her smile looked genuine then, her eyes bright with possibilities. I set it aside, not in anger, but in acknowledgement that those two people didn't exist anymore. My phone buzzed. Marcus, checking if I wanted to join him and some guys for Poker Friday night. I texted back a quick yes. Then another text came through. Veronica, the Martins invited us to their anniversary party. What should I tell them? I stared at the phone. Even now, she was thinking about keeping up appearances. I typed back, tell them whatever you want. I won't be there. Then I put on an old Johnny Cash record, poured myself a bourbon, and stood by the window watching the river flow, constant and unchanging despite everything it carried away. The next morning, I met with a divorce attorney recommended by a colleague. Patricia Winters had kind eyes and a no-nonsense attitude that I appreciated immediately. Connecticut is a no-fault state, she explained. Given that you have no children and relatively straightforward assets, this doesn't have to be complicated. I don't want to be, I said. I just want to be fair. She nodded approvingly. You'd be surprised how rare that attitude is. She slid a folder across the desk. Fill these out, and we'll file next week. As I left her office, my phone rang. Mom, how are you holding up? she asked without preamble. One foot in front of the other, I answered honestly, but moving forward. That's my boy. Spring arrived almost overnight, turning the riverfront path outside my apartment into a parade of joggers and dog walkers. I joined them one Saturday morning, running until my lungs burned and sweat soaked through my shirt. Physical pain was oddly comforting, immediate, honest, temporary. 6 weeks had passed since I walked out. The divorce was proceeding quietly. Veronica had been surprisingly cooperative once she realized I wasn't using the process to punish her. We divided our assets through our lawyers, agreed to sell the house, and kept drama to a minimum. I was toweling off after my run when my phone rang. Veronica. I almost let it go to voicemail, then changed my mind. Hello. Travis. Her voice sounded strange, tight. I need to talk to you. In person. My stomach clenched. What's wrong? Nothing's wrong. There are things I need to say. Not over the phone. I hesitated, weighing my options. Okay. When? Can you meet me at Giovanni's? At 7. Giovanni's. Where we'd had our first date. Where I'd made the Valentine's reservation she'd skipped. The irony wasn't lost on me. Fine. I kept my voice neutral. See you then. I arrived exactly on time to find her already seated, wearing a blue dress I'd never seen before. Her hands fidgeted with the stem of her water glass. Thank you for coming, she said as I sat down. I nodded, but said nothing, waiting. I've been seeing someone from work, she blurted out. It's new, but I thought you should hear it from me before rumors started. Richard? I asked, already knowing the answer. She looked surprised. Yes. How did you? I'm not blind, Veronica. I kept my voice level. Is that what you needed to tell me in person? Because you could have just... No, she interrupted. That's not it. I wanted to say I'm sorry. Of all the things I'd expected, an apology wasn't one of them. I didn't handle things well, she continued. I checked out of our marriage long before I admitted it to myself. I should have been honest with you. Yes, you should have. I felt no satisfaction in her admission, just a dull ache where anger used to be. You deserve better, she said quietly. We both did. I sipped my water. But that's in the past now. She studied my face, seeming to really see me for the first time in months. You look good, Travis. Different. I feel different. I met her gaze steadily. Turns out walking away from something that wasn't working can be the strongest choice. Her eyes widened slightly at that, and I realized she'd expected recriminations, maybe even a plea to reconsider. Instead, she was facing a man who had already moved on. The rest of the dinner passed in surprisingly civil conversation. We talked about the house sale, mutual friends, even reminisced about our early days without bitterness. When the check came, I insisted on paying, a final gesture of closure rather than obligation. Outside the restaurant, she hesitated, then offered her hand. Take care of yourself, Travis. I shook it firmly. You too, Veronica. Walking to my car, I felt lighter than I had in years, as if I'd finally set down a heavy weight I'd been carrying for too long. The future stretched before me, unwritten and full of possibilities. Fall painted the riverside path outside my apartment in shades of amber and gold. I developed a routine over the past months. Early morning runs, weekend poker with Marcus and the guys, dinners with Mom and Kevin when he was in town. A simpler life, but mine. The divorce had been finalized in August. Veronica got the house, but ended up selling it anyway, moving into a sleek downtown condo closer to her office. We'd run into each other once at a coffee shop, an awkward but civil 5-minute conversation that felt like talking to an old classmate rather than someone I'd shared a bed with for 12 years. Today was different. I'd woken up feeling restless, unsettled. The envelope on my kitchen counter might have had something to do with it. An invitation to my company's annual gala, the first one I'd attend as a single man. I pulled on running shoes and hit the riverfront harder than usual, pushing until my lungs burned and sweat drenched my shirt. 3 miles in, I spotted a familiar figure ahead, Sharon Henderson, jogging with her golden retriever. Travis, she called as I approached. Haven't seen you in ages. I slowed to match her pace. Been keeping busy. How are things with you and Mark? Good, good. She hesitated. Look, I've been meaning to call you. The Wilsons are hosting a dinner next weekend. Low-key, just a few couples. They asked me to see if you'd come. I raised an eyebrow. Just me? Or me and a date? Sharon flushed slightly. Well, they did mention my sister's in town. Kate. You met her at our anniversary party last year. She's divorced too. Just moved back from Chicago. I remembered Kate, smart, funny, with a laugh that filled the room. Under different circumstances, I might have noticed more. I'm not sure I'm ready for a setup, I said carefully. Not a setup, just dinner with friends. Sharon's expression softened. We miss you, Travis. Not everything has to change just because my marriage imploded in front of all of you. I finished, but without bitterness. She winced. That's not how we see it. I considered it. Hiding from social gatherings wouldn't help me move forward. What time should I be there? Sharon's face brightened. 7. Bring that bourbon Mark likes. Later that day, as I showered after my run, I thought about Kate Henderson, about possibility, about the fact that for the first time since the split, the idea of meeting someone new didn't feel like a betrayal or an impossibility. My phone chimed with a text as I was getting dressed. Kevin, got tickets to the Patriots game next Sunday. You in? I texted back immediately, wouldn't miss it. The rest of the day passed in comfortable routine. Grocery shopping, laundry, prepping meals for the week ahead. Simple tasks that had once been negotiated or delegated in my marriage were now just part of my life. As evening fell, I poured a glass of bourbon and stepped onto my small balcony. The river flowed below, constant and changing all at once. Like me, the Wilsons' dinner party was nothing like I'd expected. No awkward silences, no pitying glances. Just good food, easy conversation, and genuine laughter. The kind that comes from people who've known each other long enough to skip the small talk. Kate Henderson turned out to be even more engaging than I remembered. A literature professor with a wicked sense of humor and a refreshing directness. She asked about my divorce without tiptoeing around it. Mine was a disaster, she admitted over dessert. He cheated with my department chair. Made faculty meetings excruciating. Mine just faded, I said. Like a photograph left in the sun too long. She nodded, understanding in her eyes. Sometimes that's harder. No villain to blame, just two people who couldn't find each other anymore. After dinner, we exchanged numbers with the casual ease of two people with no expectations, but open possibilities. 2 weeks later, I took her to dinner, then a concert the following weekend, then hiking in the state park. Each date felt like discovering new rooms in a house I thought I knew completely. On a crisp November morning 6 months after I'd walked out of my marriage, I found myself back at the Blackbird, the dive bar where I'd sought refuge that first night. Not to drink away sorrows this time, but to meet Kevin before the Patriots game. You seem good, he said, studying me over his beer. Really good. I am, I realized. Took some time, but I got there. And this Kate woman? She's part of it. I smiled. Part of it, yeah, but not all of it. I took a sip of my beer. Had to figure out who Travis was on his own first. Kevin nodded approvingly. Mom's impressed. She thought you'd be a wreck for at least a year. Mom underestimates me. We all did, little brother. He raised his glass. To walking away when you need to. And to what comes after, I added. As we headed to the stadium, my phone buzzed with a text from Kate. Good luck to your Patriots. Dinner at my place later? I'll make a mean chili. I texted back a quick yes, a smile spreading across my face. Later that night, curled on Kate's couch with the remains of dinner cleared away, I told her about the night I'd walked out. About Veronica's ultimatum. About the silence that followed. About the strength it had taken to step into the unknown. That took courage, Kate said, her fingers intertwined with mine. Not just leaving, but building something new afterward. Turns out I'm stronger than I knew, I said. I'm glad you found out, she replied, leaning in for a kiss that felt like a beginning. Outside, the first snow of winter began to fall, covering the old year's remnants with a promise of something new. I had walked away from a life that no longer fit, and in doing so had walked toward the man I was meant to be all along. Whole, complete, and finally, genuinely happy.